Welcome to the Ladies Who Launch virtual events series. I'm super excited to have all you here. While we wait for a couple of other folks to join, I'm just going to give you a quick overview about Ladies Who Launch and maybe who I am. So my name is Katie. I'm head of community here at Ladies Who Launch, and it is my absolute pleasure to be able to bring all of you together with the goal of providing inspiration and education and bringing you really empowering stories so that you can all help build the businesses of your dreams. Ladies Who Launch, for those of you who don't know, was founded by Sarah Fryer and Kelly McGonigal back in 2013. They saw an opportunity while they were working at a company called Square. You might know of them, a payment processing platform for small businesses. But they saw an opportunity to really support underrepresented founders who are starting and running and trying to grow and scale their businesses. In 2019, we expanded from just like a side hustle to a standalone 501c3 nonprofit that provides free education. We do provide direct funding through our launch program. We also have a bunch of online tools and resources, including a free, we call it the grants database. And our team goes through, we search the internet every week to bring open grant opportunities and put them all together in one place, specifically designed for female and non-binary founders. We work really hard with our sponsorships and our partnerships to make sure that all of our events and resources are kept free for all of you. It's really important to us. We don't believe that finances should ever be a barrier for someone to get more education or to build their dreams. So we work really, really hard to keep our events and programming free and accessible. I joined the team in April of this year to help produce more events and develop more resources. I am the gal behind a lot of the stuff that you see online. I produce our monthly newsletter, which is the best place to get information about our upcoming events, about open grants. And I also give you some of my favorite podcasts and articles that I have listened to in the last month. And I promise I read and listen to everything before I send it out. I don't like to recommend anything I haven't listened to. And then we also feature stories from launchers just like you. So it's a great way to start to get to know the community. Our newsletter comes out every Tuesday, the first Tuesday of every month. It will be in your inbox. So if you want to sign up for it, I will drop the link into the chat for everyone. And I'm really, really excited because this is the first webinar that we've been able to do since I joined the team earlier this year. And my goal is to bring you an event like this every single month that features really incredible experts who can help you to take a step up in your organization. And that's what we're going to do today. So I'm absolutely thrilled to introduce you all to Dina Denham Smith. Dina is here with us. You can go ahead and say hello.
Hey, everybody.
A quick bio about Dina. She's incredible. Very, very accomplished leader and executive coach with a proven track record of helping people and teams amplify their impact and ultimately thrive in whatever organization they happen to be in, whether that is a small business or a large corporation. She draws on her firsthand executive experience and really deep expertise in organizational psychology. She coaches senior leaders at really big name companies you've probably heard of: Adobe, Netflix, Goldman Sachs, Pricewaterhouse, Dropbox, Stripe, and many, many other high growth startups. She is a widely published thought leader. I can't believe this, Dina. You've written over 60 articles on leadership and career, featured in the Harvard Business Review and in Fast Company. You've also been featured in places like the Wall Street Journal, Business Insider, and you've got a new book out that just came out earlier this summer. It's called Emotionally Charged: How to Lead in the New World of Work. And that is what we are going to be here chatting about today. So Dina, thank you so much for being here. Your track record speaks for itself.
Thank you for, thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here. And it was actually good to learn more about Ladies Who Launch.
Before we dive into the book, I'm just curious to know, because I was introduced to you through Sarah, our co-founder of Ladies Who Launch. And judging, from your background, could you just give like a brief overview in your own words? Like, how did you get to where you are today? What brought you through the paces of being an executive and moving into that world of coaching and wanting to be able to help folks with this type of work?
I really early on knew I cared a whole lot about the time we spend at work. Like I came to that actually in college. And so it was like straight after school that I went into a PhD program for organizational psychology. But I got there and I was like, I don't want to be a professor. Like I want to work in the business world and like bring all this great science to people who can actually use it. And so I left after I got my master's And I went to an MBA program because at this point in time, this was not to date myself too much, but it was the 90s. And some of this like organizational development and talent development, it really wasn't mainstream. And so I knew I needed to like be able to make like sort of like a very hard case for the quote unquote soft stuff. So I left my master's program and I got my MBA. And then I just really worked at this intersection of like people and like business results right out the gate. And it started with being a management consultant working on big org change projects at PricewaterhouseCoopers. And from there, it was the .com boom. And so I had to like hop ship and check that out for a bit. And so I rode that wave for a while, leading and moved from there into private equity. And ultimately, there just came a point in time where I was like, I think I'm ready to like sort of full circle this and actually help other leaders thrive at work. And that's what brought me to coaching. So it's sort of like the through line was there the whole time. There've just been different chapters,
Yeah.
but with that same like I really just care. Like we spend so much time at work.
Yes.
We care so much about our work. Some of our colleagues, we spend more time with them when we do like our husbands or partners, right? Like it plays this big, huge role in our lives and not just the hours we spend at work. It bleeds over into the rest of our life too.
Yeah.
And so I care a lot about helping people sort of perform at their highest level and feel really good while doing it.
Oh my gosh, you're speaking right to my heart because I've always felt I'm like, we spend so much time with the people we work with, but especially so my background, I've been working in corporate, mostly in the tech industry here in San Francisco for the last 18 years. And I have found, and I have been in the past, in my past life, a people manager, right? And like
Hmm.
we spend so much time with our managers, but there's those soft skill resources to support people and helping to guide other people, whether you are a small business owner and you just have like, one person maybe perhaps being your like receptionist in the front of your office, or
Yeah.
maybe you have like you're running a pizza place and you've got 20 employees. It's there is that nuance that comes through when we work with other people, and we can find all sorts of education about all these other aspects of business on the internet, but that interpersonal relationship I think is just like so critical and
Yeah.
has become more and more critical. Your book really does talk about how emotional demands in our workplaces, in our individual businesses, in our corporate lives, wherever, are much higher now than they've ever been. And while I have some ideas as to like maybe why that's happened, I would just love if you could talk more broadly about that and maybe, just like include some points that could help us relate as people leaders.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, the modern work world is more emotionally demanding in ways that we rarely discuss, right? Like the pace is relentless.
Mm,
Expectations are high, resources are tight. We're all doing more with less, typically in more crowded and competitive markets. We are drowning in information. I don't even know how many emails I receive and send in a day, but it's tens and tens and tens and tens. You add in Slack and texts and meetings, right? Like we're overstimulated. Our nervous systems are fried and we never get a chance to come up for air because
yeah.
how could we, right? Like we've got like little supercomputers sitting in our back pockets, loaded with dashboards and all these different communication methods. And this technology is great, but it's a race like boundaries of space and time. And when we can work from anywhere anytime, right, there's no natural off switch. I was out to dinner with my family like literally just last night, and I glanced at my phone to just check the time. And then 2 minutes later, I find myself like knee deep in a work thread, right? Like it's everywhere with us. And the technology is great, but it has some costs.
Yeah.
We've seen this meteoric rise of AI, again, like phenomenal, right? But it's raising very sort of existential questions for us as humans around value and job security and relevance. We've got this larger context that sits over us all. social upheaval and political turmoil and climate disasters and wars and market volatility. And we have a family business, and the tariffs have sent things just haywire
Mm.
since January. And whether that affects you or not, I'm sure one of these forces you can relate to. And all of that uncertainty, right? It depletes and it drains us. And if you lead a team, there have also been changes, really that started during well, they got accelerated during the pandemic, let me say
Right,
that.
right.
And that have also increased emotional demands. It's harder to build trust and motivate when we do a lot of our business um, like over Zoom or asynchronously, right?
Yeah.
We have an increasingly polarized and diverse workforce. That means you need to manage more conflict and modify your style more. We have expectations at work now for personal support, not just help with like the job at hand. This all falls on people leaders.
Yeah.
So yeah, the from a multitude of places, work has become more emotionally demanding, and we're seeing it, Katie, like in all the data, like stress and burnout and incidents of mental health issues amongst US workers, like broadly, are at unprecedented highs.
Yeah, it really does remind me that we are in a much different place now than we were, 5 years ago, right? March
Yeah.
2020, I think, really changed the landscape for everybody, every company. And finding our way back to that. And I was listening to a podcast, I may include it in the next newsletter, we'll see. But it was talking about this kind of like collective trauma that we all went through the pandemic and how it hasn't yet like been processed in the way that can come out.
I totally
Um,
agree. Send me that podcast.
Oh, I definitely will. To me, all of this really feels it's a weight, right? Like it's like labor. We're having to hold this, and
Mhm.
every single one of us business owners or not, it's like we feel it on our shoulders. And
Yeah.
so you actually talk a lot in the book about this concept of emotional labor. Can you like define that concept for us and maybe talk through how it shows up for everyone?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Let me define it because I think people are like emotional labor, emotional intelligence, emotional regulation, what's what?
Right.
So let me start you out with like a non-work example. So think about the last time that you got a gift that you didn't like, right?
Okay.
But you smiled, you said thank you, and you acted grateful anyhow, right? Like,
Yeah.
of course, right? Like you managed your expression to match the expectations of that situation and to protect the other person's feelings. Well, we perform emotional labor at work too, but we
Mm,
do it much more frequently and the stakes are higher, right?
hmm.
Because if we don't manage our expression well, we could risk our credibility. We could lose a client, a customer. And so, emotional labor, sort of technically speaking, is the work we do to display the right feelings at work.
Okay.
Sometimes that means we suppress how we really feel. And sometimes it means we evoke things that we don't actually feel, right? To display them. So, like, you can just think about this for a moment. Like, have you ever swallowed your frustration in a tough meeting? I
A
can't
lot.
see hands, but I'm thinking some might be raised out there if I'd asked.
Yeah.
Or like acted upbeat in a meeting when you're actually running on fumes or calmed an anxious client when you're feeling anxious yourself. These are all like little microcosms of emotional labor, right? Because we all understand consciously, unconsciously, we need to do this to perform well at work. If you lead a team, right? If you're managing other people, emotional labor shows up in a bunch of other ways too. So you might feel just absolutely exhausted and burnt out, but you're still like motivating your team for that like final mile, right?
Yeah.
Or you've got tension or conflict on your team and you need to like step in and sort of soothe that tension. That's emotional labor. And then also making decisions that affect real people's lives, like when you have to do the really hard thing and let an underperformer go, right?
Yeah.
Or
Right
conducting
away.
a layoff, or
Yeah.
even now, right? Like the market is shifting so quickly that oftentimes companies need to also be shifting their strategy a lot.
Right.
And it has this ricochet effect down into organizations with restructurings. And like people are super change fatigued, but like sometimes you got to step in and be like, sorry guys, just one more time, right? Like we're going to shuffle things around. And you know, as a leader, that just, you feel that, you do, but you still have to do it.
Yeah. Yeah,
um,
you
and
do.
that's emotional labor. And you know, we don't really talk about it
Mhm.
at work. It's on nobody's job description ever. And when we don't acknowledge it and we don't manage it, there can be a cost over time.
Thank you so much for defining emotional labor, because I feel like when I talk about like, oh, but emotional labor, sometimes people can look at it like it's a bit of like a woo-woo phrase. And I
Yeah,
don't think it is.
it's not.
I think like emotions are really important for the workplace, and we'll get to that part. But what's really resonating with me and just my own experience as a human is like, I do a lot of work on this in my personal life, but the more I like tamp things down, right? Like the more likely I am to like have an explosion. And I feel like I'm probably not
Yes,
the only one on this call who may experience that. And that explosion can come out. I mean, it could come out with the poor UPS driver who just happens to be like, I'm sorry, this critical package that you needed for work is delayed, right? Like it can
right.
come out anywhere. So like you have this analogy, I think it's actually a really good one about beach balls. Can you talk a little bit more about beach balls and how that plays into?
I can, and thank you for like teeing it up so expertly. I barely need to barely need to describe it. For everyone who's listening, like, have you ever tried to like hold a beach ball underwater? Like, you
Yeah.
can do it, right? But it takes effort.
I mean, my experience with trying to hold a ball underwater is I
Yeah.
usually end up falling under the water myself and the ball goes like shooting off the top,
Goes
right? Like,
shooting out the side,
right.
right? And it
Yeah.
ends up hitting some innocent bystander like the UPS driver right in the
Right.
face.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
so anyhow, suppressing our emotions is like holding a beach ball
Okay.
underwater. Like
Yeah.
you can do it, but it takes effort. The problem is, you know, life, right? Like
Right.
inevitably there's another difficult situation and a correspondingly difficult emotion. And then we try to submerge that too. And now all of a sudden you're not trying to just like hold one thing down. You might be holding down multiple things. And just like we talked about, like the beach ball is gonna pop up, right? Like your emotions are gonna come out. And
Yeah.
they often come out at inconvenient times. They come out in ways like you didn't initially intend. And they do, they hit like, they can oftentimes hit like some innocent bystander in the face. And it sounds like such a silly way to like describe emotions, but the evidence backs it up. Um, because we often talk about like feelings and emotions. We use these terms somewhat interchangeably, but that's not quite right. See, emotions have three parts. There's like the behavioral part, like the part that others could see. So if we're happy, they might notice us smiling. Or if we're angry, maybe our fists clench, something like
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
Right? And this is the piece we're managing at work when we're doing emotional labor. But underneath that behavioral expression is a physiological response. So think about the last time you were like put on the spot in like a high stakes situation, right? And maybe you like felt butterflies in your stomach or your hands trembled or you got that like terrible flush of heat on your face.
Yes.
That's like the motion stress, like showing up in your body, right? There's always a
Yes.
physiological response. And then there's also this cognitive element to emotions. It's sort of how we're making sense of everything. It's the story we tell ourselves and the label we put on it. Like, oh, I'm so happy. I just got a great package from the UPS driver or whatever. And so when we just manage the surface, like these other two parts don't go away. The
Mm,
physiological response and that story, your mental interpretation, they don't disappear when we ignore them. They don't. They like wait, right? And just like you described, when we keep pushing it down, like at some point they surface.
yeah. Yeah. So if these two pieces, and I'm over here like taking notes,
I see that.
these two pieces, if they don't go away, right? Like they don't disappear, I'm just assuming we have to find some sort of way to like handle that. How do we do that? Like how do we
Yeah.
handle like these triggers, so to speak? Like I've always been taught that like when I feel those responses in my body, like that to me is like the signal of like If I'm starting, for me, it's the flush. I feel the flush,
Yeah.
like that's usually a signal to me that I've been triggered in some way. And like, I need to be very mindful of what comes next.
Right.
But I know, I mean, the book is filled with all these kind of like tools and strategies for like how we manage this. Like,
Yeah.
how do we manage it? Like, how do we move forward when we're in this place?
Yeah. Yeah. So the scenario that we sort of take on and the framework that I'm going to share with everybody, the idea is, well, first off, when we get triggered, oftentimes we either like stuff it down, right, and
Mhm.
suppress, or we overreact.
Mm,
We tend to, sort of like that fight or flight
yeah.
instinct. Um, and so at work, though, we don't really want to do either, especially repeatedly. And so there are strategies that can help you like quickly deactivate where you're not suppressing, but you're also keeping your cool. And the framework spells the word brave, BRAVE.
Okay.
So the first, B, is for breathing. Like breathing is the only physiological response we can control in our body. And when we get stressed, we tend to get short, shallow breaths. If we intentionally take like deeper breaths, like down into our belly, which we can do very quickly and very inconspicuously, we can literally toggle our nervous system from like sympathetic into parasympathetic. And it takes us very quickly out of that fight or flight response. So the first line of defense is like take a couple deep breaths, which sounds somewhat trite, but it like literally works. So we we should use that.
Yeah.
R is for refocusing. When we get triggered, we tend to get like hyper focused on the trigger itself, which can only like increase our activation. So refocusing is strategically just like zooming out from it. I mean, like I could just look at the green plant on the corner of my desk, like, or talk, like focus on what I'm feeling in my body. Like you said, like, oh, I'm feeling this. It helps us like basically ground and switch our attention. A is for accept. What
Okay.
many of us do when we start feeling things like anger or anxiety or sadness, emotions that we judge as inappropriate or wrong or weak due to like all these crazy messages that we get, we tend to judge them.
Mm,
Problem is, judging your emotions is like adding fuel to the flame, right? Now you're mad, you're mad. You're stressed. Like we have just escalated the feeling.
yeah.
Um, Acceptance is honest, it's like emotional jujitsu. Like, does you stop fighting the feeling and you
Yeah.
take its power away?
Yeah.
It's so underused. V is for verbalize. Once again, this is like a amazing like hack. When we are emotionally activated, areas in our brain more associated with like the limbic system are activated. To find words, we need to use our prefrontal cortex, right, which is our higher reasoning. Um, it's where our self control lives. And so when you look to find like words like, what am I feeling? How I'm feeling
Hmm.
frustrated, I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling edgy, whatever it might be, you activate your prefrontal cortex and your brain works a little bit like a seesaw. And so you can move the activity into the part of your brain that will enable you to kind of maintain your composure in this setting. So breathing, refocusing, accepting, and seeking words to describe what you're feeling, BRAV. It's like a 1, 2, 3, 4 punch. Any of
Yeah.
these strategies on their own is better than none.
Do we have to use them all at the same
No,
time or just
no, no,
one?
no.
Okay.
I mean, it's all like you literally can go through them in about 30 seconds
Sure.
flat
Yeah.
when you
Yeah.
know them.
Yeah.
But I mean, one is better than none
Yeah.
for
Okay.
sure.
And so then you said E was engaged. Sorry, I didn't
E
mean to
is
cut you
for
off there.
engage, right?
Okay.
Which is like
Engage.
you have now like you're now back to your senses,
Right.
brought things down, and you can sort of choose more reasonably how to proceed, how to
Love that.
either express your frustration about the situation or choose a different path.
I love the acronym BRAVE too. I could imagine having something on my computer that's just like be brave, right?
Yeah.
BRAVE, and then like having it listed out. That is a beautiful, beautiful way to remember those strategies. So we've talked through like this like brave strategy, these tools. What like What does recovery work look like if maybe you've just had a day, like you
Yeah.
have that day where it's like, perhaps you're feeling like you're getting hit multiple times. There's like a frustration here. There's maybe some sort of like a loss or like a really big speed bump, so to speak, that you have to
Yeah.
figure out how to like navigate around. But like, say you've had like just like a really emotionally draining like day or like week, how would you recommend someone, especially like an entrepreneur who tends to be pretty limited on time, like how
Right.
do we go about recovering from that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, first off, who doesn't have a day? And I mean, especially as a founder and entrepreneur, it can be an emotional roller coaster, right? Like the
Yeah.
highs are so high and the wins are so gratifying. But then it's hard, right? Like it's
Yeah.
just so hard. Honestly, I think even if you're not an entrepreneur, you're not a founder, you're not trying to get your own business off the ground, like just the world we live in these days, like I feel like recovery is no longer an option. I think it is an imperative for well-being and sustained success. And there are ways that you can do it that do not take like a silent retreat for 7 days, right? Like,
I'm so glad you said that.
yeah, and sometimes you don't have like 10 days that you can go
Oh,
take.
no, exactly.
Um,
Must be nice. But
okay.
anyway.
So here I like big on like frameworks. So
Yeah.
this is like the 3 R's of recovery.
Ooh, I love it. Okay.
Okay.
Writing it down
Okay.
already.
So the first R is for reflect.
Mm,
So it is so easy, especially when you're trying to get a business off the ground or you just have a big job, to just feel as though like you just got to keep powering through, right?
mhm, mhm,
You can't stop. I mean, we can kind of get a little bit stuck in that. And we're focused on our customers, we're focused on vendors, we're focused on our team. We've got this external focus, and then we have this like pressure. And it's very easy to not pause and process like your emotional experience. Reflection is what helps us metabolize what we've experienced so we don't carry it around with us. And you don't need like the 10-day silent retreat. Like
right.
at the end of a tough day, you can literally ask yourself, like, what am I feeling and what's it trying to tell me? Because our emotions, people think of them as like these like squishy little things. they're
Mhm,
they're actually information, they're data, and
mm,
they give us really important clues about our needs, our values, our boundaries. And when we tune into them, we can make much better decisions, have healthier relationships, create higher performing teams, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
but we need to like reflect on what those might be, um, to distill meaning and to process them, right? So that we
yeah.
don't have the beach balls flying up. The second R is for reframe, which most people
Mhm,
have probably heard of. This addresses that cognitive element of emotion, like how we're making sense of everything. Because when we change the lens, when we change our thinking, we can oftentimes change how we feel. And this
mm,
is not suppression, right? Like this is a very different method of regulating our emotions. So it's as simple as asking questions like after that tough day, like what could be the silver linings here? Like
mm,
how might this challenge actually help me grow long term? It's
mhm,
switching the lens. And it's not just on the situation. One of the things I implore of most, pretty much any human, because I don't think it comes naturally, is self compassion.
mm,
So, it's especially as a founder, as you are going up and down this roller coaster, giving yourself the same like grace and kindness you would offer to a friend in the same situation. Like
yeah,
thinking to
yeah,
yourself, like, what would I say? Like, if my friend just told me the same situation, this challenge or struggle they were in, what would I say to them? Offering that same kindness to yourself, right? That's switching the lens, not just on the situation, but the one that you apply to yourself. And that's really powerful. And it does not make you lose your edge. Like the evidence on the benefits of self-compassion in terms of performance are like abundant. So you will not lose your edge, I promise you, when you tell your little critic to take a back seat.
self-compassion is so important because I talk to a lot of female founders, entrepreneurs, small business owners. Some of my best friends are here locally, right? Like starting their businesses. And it's true. We so often forget to have compassion for ourselves, and we forget that, like, the things that I say to myself in the mirror, I would never say to a friend. So, like, why am I
Never.
saying them to myself? And actually, one of my favorite things that my mom has always told me my whole life, she says, your mind is a powerful thing. Anything you tell it, it's going to believe. Right. And
Right.
so, if you sit there and are telling yourself, I'm not doing enough, I'm not working hard enough, I'm stupid, I shouldn't have made that deal, blah, 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 whatever. Like your brain's going to start believing it, internalizing it, and then that's going to come out in your product. It's going to come out into like whatever you put out into the world. And so I think this is a really beautiful point around like reframing, and
Right.
it's literally just shifting your view a little bit,
It
and
is.
so much can change. And
So
so
much
I think
change.
that's a really beautiful point that you brought up. Thank you for raising that one.
Oh my God, yes. Yeah, and thank you for double clicking.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that's the one where I'm like, anytime I talk to someone, I'm like, give yourself a big hug, please.
Yeah,
Like you're so important, you know? And like we need women to do all of this work. Like there's all this information out there. I actually should have pulled up the numbers and I just didn't think to. But I saw a study a few days ago that was like organizations that are led by women, that are founded by women, tend to like waste less money. They come in at or under budget. They have stronger returns, whether that's for like investors,
oh
employees,
yeah,
for themselves, you know, like there's so much data about how powerful women are in their own businesses and in the workforce in general. And but if we're undercutting ourselves, like we can't get there. And
right.
we desperately we all need ourselves to get there.
The third R is for restore.
Ooh.
So, what's really important to understand is that when our bodies have been under strain for
Mhm.
an extended period of time, there's a real physiological need to rest and recuperate to avoid the long term costs of stress.
Yeah.
But what happens, and no judgment. I mean, right? Like definitely been caught by this too. Is we just keep pushing through. Right? Like, we get stuck in a stress spiral, and it's no wonder, given sort of societal and organizational norms and the pressure of like getting your own venture off the ground. So we just keep pushing through. The problem is like the deeper we get stuck in this stress spiral,
Mhm.
the less likely we are to engage in the very behaviors that would help us break free. And this is
Mm,
known as the recovery paradox. Like
okay.
the people who need a break the most are the least likely to take one. And I've actually found this concept to be a very powerful one in my own life because I am definitely like I've got a lot of energy and I can grind, right? um, so I'm like, oh, remember the recovery paradox.
Yeah.
Anyhow, there's a few things that we know really help. It's not just about taking time off, it's about what you do with that time. So the first thing that really helps is detachment, truly giving your mind a break from work, like stepping away, not sitting on emails all night long, like truly finding a way to just separate from work. This second thing is relaxing activities like a walk or music that calms you. It can be that simple. On the other side of that, mastery activities like doing or learning something new that is completely unrelated to your work. So think learning to play the guitar or engaging in a hobby if you have one. If you like to cook, like doing some cool new recipe, right? That's the third activity that can really like help you restore your energy. And the last gets at autonomy, right? Like
Mm,
you need to choose how you recover, right? Like not everybody needs a bubble bath, right? Like
no, yeah.
right? Like for some of us, it is a vigorous hike up a steep hill, right? For other people, it's like the New York Times in
Yeah.
bed Sunday morning with coffee and the door shut. It's very like if your partner is like, let's go on a hike and it's going to be great, and that's not your idea of recovery, you're not going to get the same benefit that they do. Those
I
are kind
think,
of like the four activities.
yeah.
And you can oftentimes activities you'll like be able to check multiple boxes. So yeah, what were you gonna ask?
I think we can lose ourselves a lot in work, right?
Mhm.
Especially when we are running our own business and you're
Yes.
trying to get business off the ground, right? Like I know a young woman who's like trying to get her clothing brand like off the ground, for instance, and she's working like 6.5 days a week or
Yeah.
whatever. And there is an element of grind that comes in it, but sometimes because we can lose ourselves, we may actually forget these different activities. I had to ask myself, like, what hobbies do I even like anymore? And I had to go back and like everyone's talking about baking sourdough bread, but that's not really my thing. But I also have a question for you that comes up, and maybe just because I've seen this circulate on the internet, right? But there's this perspective of like self-care isn't always sexy. Self-care might be making that dentist appointment that you haven't done in 2 years or taking your car to the shop. Does that fit into any of these like three R's? Where would you place that?
I would not put it into sort of
Recovery.
these recovery activities.
Okay.
Um, some of it I think is just like simple life maintenance. And
Yeah.
for some of us, like when too many of these like items build up, these things we know we should do, but we keep on like
Mm-hmm.
pushing to the back burner, that in
Mm-hmm.
and of itself becomes a source of stress.
Yeah, for sure. Okay.
I call them like the niggles, like they kind of
Yeah.
niggle at you, like I need to,
The little voice in the back of your head right
yeah,
there.
it's
Yeah.
sometimes, like just taking a day and like knocking all that stuff out, like the relief you get,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
From killing the niggles.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like for me, it's like I call it my gremlin in the back of my head that's like
Yeah.
telling me all these things I should be doing.
Yeah.
And yeah, but I think it's really helpful to be clear that it's life admin. It's important, but
Yeah.
life admin in and of itself isn't actually recovery. It's not.
Yeah.
And to truly recover, the part that really struck me was talking about detachment and like
Yeah.
not looking at your email. I know we're kind of coming up towards the end of our
Yeah.
conversation, but I'm having such a good time talking with you. I think if folks remember just like a couple lessons from your book, what do you think you would want them to be?
I think the first one would be that emotions are information, like
I
they're
love that.
data. Um, and like none of us would ignore data, right? Like
Right.
never.
We're told all the time we need the data to make the right
We need
the
the
right
data.
decision. Yeah.
We need the data. And that data is so important, like for your own health and for your happiness and for your
Yeah.
success. And especially, as your businesses grow and you're leading more and more people, they're so fundamental to leading others well. And emotional connection with your customers and all of it. Like they're really, really just as critical as like the spreadsheets and the quarterly numbers and all of that. So I would, that's one thing is just sort of thinking about emotions differently. I think
Hmm.
the second thing would be have a little rant first. We've been talking about digital upskilling, right? For like
Right.
so many years.
Right.
And but I actually think for the world that we live in, we need to emotionally upskill. Like we need new skills
Mm.
for new times um, in order to thrive. And
Yeah.
everything, everything in the book, every emotional skill, it's learnable.
Yeah.
Like these are not innate gifts of the lucky few.
No.
So all of the strategies in my book and just sort of emotional skills in general that can be learned, right? Like so
Yeah.
no matter where you are on that like learning continuum, like there's room to grow and benefit to gain. And then the last thing, and maybe this is just me projecting, but like don't forget the recovery paradox. Like I
Yeah.
think it's especially for founders and people operating their own businesses like I am. Like it's really important to remember that because our work can become so all consuming because we care so much.
I think like if you or maybe thinking to yourself, oh, I don't need a break. That should probably be like the big data point red flag
Yeah,
that's like,
right?
actually, you might. And so
Right.
maybe let's sort of slow down a little bit and look at it. Wow, Dina, this was really incredible. Thank you so much for coming to talk with us today and for being here. And thank all of you for listening. If the book is of interest to you and you want to learn more about it and more about emotions in the workplace, I think, as we continue to become so much more of an interconnected society, it's going to be really, really important for us to learn how to manage these emotions properly because, that beach ball, when it pops out of the water, it hits someone in the face. It doesn't feel good.
No, no good.
And it's like on top of it not feeling good, it's also just like mortifying. So like I
Yeah.
don't think we want to be those people. But thank you so much,
Yeah,
Dina.
no,
Thank you
thank
so
you
much.
for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll look forward to talking with everybody soon.